Michael, as a follow-on to that, can you talk to us about documenting preventive measures? How does that get done? Why do we sometimes miss that? Why is it important?
Yeah. And one thing I want to add to what Brian was saying too, the other thing that we see a lot, we get to ask those questions and people think they have cybersecurity in place because they've got an antivirus. And you heard everything that Alexander said, Brian's like, it's an alphabet soup of stuff they expect these days. And so that is a big problem where you go into something, they go, oh yeah, we got good cybersecurity. We recently upgraded our antivirus. We got Norton or whatever, like not going to cut it. That's not, not going to help. So the other thing we see a lot of is that companies don't document it or they don't follow their documentation, right? So maybe they have a documented process and they say, this is how we do patch management. And that's what they tell the insurance company. And so a perfect example of this is we have a co-managed customer. We have all of our cybersecurity software, but they wanted to manage the firewall. And it was a Fortinet firewall that has a known vulnerability. And we said, patch it. And they said, we will. And we said, patch it. And they said, we will. And we said, patch it. And then they said that we will. And then we stopped a hack. And the hack came through that router. And if it was anything other than what we stopped, like it was, the hackers probably touched their network for 10 minutes tops, because we immediately saw them connecting to stuff, disconnected the internet. We went over there and upgraded the router for them and stopped that and made sure everything was good. But the problem was if they made a claim against that, it would most likely get denied because they said part of their process was to update that firmware and then they didn't update that firmware. And so if you don't have good documentation, and the flip side of that is if you don't follow your own documentation and say, we do this, we do this, we do this. So how many people say in that, oh yeah, sure, we talked about how we're going to deal with ransomware and what that incident response is going to look like, but then they never actually did, or they don't have the document, or we're going to do all of the security updates and we're going to do them in this form or fashion. And you give yourself this super tight thing. We're going to do every update within 24 hours of being released. Well, if you don't meet that of what you said, that gives room to be interpreted a different way. So you want to make sure that you have everything documented well, that you can do it, that you can live up to it, your MSP can live up to it, so that you can follow your own process and make sure it's being done. And then the other side of that is turnover and other things happen in companies. And if you don't have a documented process, then that's when things get lost as well, as they say, oh, we just trust the MSPs doing it. And they don't follow up, they don't ask the questions, they don't ask for proof. And then something happens and then the insurance gets denied because they said they were doing this thing and they didn't. And then it gets into a legal thing at that point, I would assume, and I'd leave that to other experts. But I know if a company got their insurance request denied because the MSP wasn't doing something they thought they were doing, there's probably some lawsuits that are going to fly back and forth across that way, because nobody wants to get stuck with the bill at the end of the day.